All right. If everyone takes their seats, we will go ahead and begin the opening press conference of the 2025 fantasy football season. Before we get to the questions, I want to thank all of you for being here, members of the esteemed media. I will try to keep this press conference positive. I do want, before we get to the questions, I do want to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, EA Sports. You'll see it on the microphone here. After not making the playoffs last season, I'm really not even sure that EA Sports renewed their sponsorship agreement, but it is the only working microphone that I could find for this press conference, and so I'm not going to give it back. We did try to seek some new sponsorships for this season, but were unsuccessful. Our marketing department had reached out to Twisted Tea. They were hopeful that they would jump on board because apparently it came to our attention that about the only way that our fans could make it through a full game watching Laces Out play last season was to consume two 24 packs of Twisted Tea, but Twisted Tea unfortunately declined the sponsorship. Our marketing department then had the bright idea to try and reinvent the iconic Laces Out logo. Thankfully, that plan was scratched with the Cracker Barrel debacle that happened just a few weeks ago. So thankfully, and I am proud to say that the Laces Out logo for the franchise will remain unchanged this year. I do have Monster here. Again, they are not a sponsorship yet. I just enjoy drinking the drink. If they would like to sponsor us in the near future, please call our marketing department. I've been drinking a lot of these in preparation for the season. That begins on Thursday this week. So with that being said, I will open it up to questions from the media that have gathered here this afternoon. You probably will not hear the questions that are asked due to our limited budget. As you see, if it looks like we are filming this press conference from the garage / weight room, you would be correct in assuming that. Apparently, when you do not make the playoffs, things get taken from you, or they try to incentivize me to do better. So you will not hear the questions, but I will make sure that you are aware of what the questions are. So we will open it up. Yes. It's been a long off season. 2021, Laces Out. We won our first Super Bowl. 2022, made it to the big show again, came up short in a close game. Then the 2023 season, made the playoffs on a 13-game winning streak, almost completed in the first and only undefeated season in fantasy football history, but came up short and then got outed in the first round of the playoffs. And then last season, we did not make the playoffs. We missed our expectations. So, yes, I'm aware. The fans, the media have been saying that we've been on a downward trend now since winning in 2021. So, it's been hard. That's been a challenge as a coach you face. You start to wonder. I hear the people saying the game's passed me by, that I need to hang it up, give it to the younger guys. But I'm not ready yet. We just gotta figure out a way to get it done. I kind of went into this year's draft with a different strategy. really taking a look at our league rules. And, as you all know, the rules in our league are different compared to any other fantasy league. I mean, you get massive bonus points if you've got a running quarterback. If you've got a running back that catches a lot of receptions, gets a receiving touchdown, that's mad points. If you got a kicker that's booting 50-yard field goals, I mean, you can double, triple your points easily. So, what we try to do to prepare for this year's draft is look for those explosive playmakers. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the past. I'm worried about the guys. I'm focused on the guys that are in our locker room right now. They've been working hard, in preparation for this upcoming season. So far, all of them are still eligible. They've not been on the commissioner's suspension list, other than the one coming into the season already, which we knew about. So, their mind's right. I'm excited. I feel like we've got a high explosive group of guys. I think we're going to put a good product on the field this year that the fans are going to be proud of. Yes, next question. Yeah, I mean, draft day 2025. I mean, it's my first draft as a head coach was in 2013. So I'm 12 years in on this. So it was a good draft. Started late as usual. There was some late arrivals. We spent about 25 minutes. Stephen Ashley, the coach for Fantasy Phenom, was bringing up the Travis Hunter situation. As you all know, he's going to be a two-way player this year in the National Football League. That's something you don't see a lot of offense, defense, and he was wanting to try to, Stephen's won 4 championships, as much as it pains me to say, but he was trying to exploit, in true Bill Belichick fashion, every rule in the book, trying to get as many double bonus points as possible by being able to play him, Travis Hunter on offense and defense. And, it was heated. I mean, it was a heated debate, and the ownership took a vote, and thankfully Stephen was shot down. And, I think that derailed his entire draft strategy. The fact that Travis Hunter can only be used as an offensive player. So it definitely did, because he went from being, apparently number 1 on Stephen's board to being, I think, a 14th round pick. But I expect that out of a competitor like him. I mean, he's always looking for guys that are going to give him that extra advantage. I don't blame him. Also new commissioner, Curtis Marazzi is still in the league, but he's handed the reins to his son, which I think would be a good move. It's time to get some young blood in there. Curtis always does a good job year in and year out. Usually we have our draft, and when we walk away from there on Sunday night, he said, "Boys, we're gonna have this team entered, and you're gonna be able to get on there tonight and be able to check out your team and start getting your lineup set." And usually three days go by. Wednesday night we start to worry. Is this the year that he finally, took the $75 entry fee and took the red-eye flight to Myrtle Beach and stiffed us? So, I was assured by Mitchell Marazzi, the younger, more agile son, that was not going to happen. And I'll be damned if not 9 o'clock on Sunday night my lineup was in. Our league was ready to go. So yeah, I'm excited about that. It's always good, to have someone punctual in there that, is going to get the job done. So I'm excited to see the future of the league with him in charge. A lot of new stuff happening. He took charge, took reins of the Travis Hunter situation, which could have ended in a fiasco. We got some, fractional points this year. That's new to the league, so I'm excited about, fractional points. Of course, I'll be excited about until I lose the first week or lose 1 week because of it. But excited about that. That's a step in the right direction. So, all right. Other questions? Gary. All right. Yeah, Gary, my neighbor Gary here. Hey, Gary, I know we're in the garage. It's not usual. Yeah, my leaf blower is over there in the corner. Behind the shelf and the broom over there. Yeah, help yourself. You don't need to interrupt the press conference. You can grab it and you can go. All right. Next question. Okay. Yeah, I you know what? I would be happy to go down through the roster and talk about all of the players that we have on this year's roster. So I'll just take a minute talking about each one. Some players are very excited about, and I got to be honest, there's a couple I didn't even know what their names were until I picked them, in the draft. But starting off, I had the 6th pick in this year's draft. It is a 10-team league, PPR, a lot of crazy scoring, high-scoring games. So it's something I'm looking for guys this year that have big boom potential. I mean, we could bust, but there's going to be some games that we come out and we're on fire. So, with the first pick, 6th pick, I took Christian McCaffrey. I do believe, he is getting older. He's been in the league a while, but when healthy, there's no better back. I mean, when it comes to rushing, receiving, he's a massive cheat code. That's the term I've heard a lot this year when researching fantasy football. Cheat code this, cheat code that. And I truly believe that McCaffrey is the cheat code to win in this league if he stays healthy. Number 2 pick, quarterback Josh Allen. I had Lamar Jackson last year, and Lamar was great. He actually was the highest scoring player in the league. Then the problem is he didn't make the playoffs. He went 6-8. And it was either Lamar or me, and I'm not going anywhere. So, I had the option to pick him again, but he didn't make the cut. I just decided to get some young blood in there. Let's get new blood, I should say. And Josh Allen's fantastic. He had one game last year in our league. He scored 111 points. Now I realize that's the ceiling, but that's the ceiling I want week in and week out. So I'm excited to have Josh Allen on board. I think he's going to be a monster for us. So sitting at the 3rd pick, I was really looking at the wide receiver list. I wanted to solidify one of those, and it's one of those I didn't really love anybody on there, but again, going back to my strategy for this season is, I want explosive playmakers that, at any play on any spot of the field, they can take it to the distance. And so Tyreek Hill was sitting there and I grabbed him. I know Tyreek was on our squad last year and he was a huge disappointment. He knows that. We talked about that. I think some of that was Tua last year's quarterback went down. As most of you know, Tyreek's got a lot of kids running around the house. So I don't know if maybe some of those babies were keeping him up all night and he just wasn't on top of his game because he wasn't getting his sleep and his rest. But he's assured me that this year will be better. That he will lead some explosive plays. He's going to have some big games for us. I'm excited about Tyreek. I think he's gonna go back to his form a couple years ago and really be special for us this year. Then with the 4th pick, I was looking around and Alvin Kamara was there. I know what you're thinking. Alvin's on a horrible team, and he is. I agree. I know you're probably thinking, my goodness, you got McCaffrey, you got Allen, you got Hill, Kamara. This team would be loaded if this was 3 years ago. But you know what? Kamara, Alvin, he's been solid. I mean, he's been solid for years on a bad team. Again, going back to our league format, I like his upside. He's going to get some receiving touchdown this season, and I am super, super excited about him. Then with the 5th pick, I went back to wide receiver. I snatched up, Marvin Harrison Jr. As a rookie last year, I think he was probably a little bit of a letdown. But I can't remember a wide receiver coming out of college that had more hype than him. He's a generational talent. The only thing that worries me about Marvin Harrison Jr. is he has Kyler Murray at quarterback, and playing against Kyler all these years, he's explosive with the legs, but let's be real, Kyler's he's got a hard time even reading a middle school defense. So, I realize there's going to be some challenges there with Harrison, but I like his potential, and I think that he's going to be special for us. Looking back at the 6th pick, I went with a guy named Courtland Sutton, all right, out of Denver. I know Denver offensive players, I've typically avoided them in recent years, but Bo Nix is turning things around there in Denver. Sutton's a guy that while, he doesn't really create any excitement, he's sneaky good. I can't tell you how many times over the last several years I've gone into a Sunday night football game, a Monday night football game, and I've had, one player I'm playing against and playing against Cortland Sutton. I'm like, I got this in the bag. We've got this victory. And then daggone it, if he didn't go out and get 90 yards receiving and 8 receptions and a touchdown, the next thing you know, I'm losing because of his performance. So I said, not this year. Not happening this year. So, I snuck him up with the 6th pick. And I'm really have high hopes for him. Potentially a flex player. He might even be able to work his way into a wide receiver number 2 for me if Kyler Murray can't get the ball to Harrison. So, he's going to be a good one. I'm excited about Sutton. Number 7 pick, went with tight end. If there is a weakness on this team, and they know this. I talked to the tight end room. They're professional. If there is a weakness on this team, it is tight end. Several times throughout this draft, I was, eyeing tight ends. George Kittle was on my list. I wanted George. Unfortunately, I lost him. A guy took him 2 picks before me. So then Kelsey fell. I was like, I'm going to get Kelsey. And he went the pick before I selected. So, looking at, I selected Evan Ingram as my tight end. I'm glad to get him out of Jacksonville. I think, again, I go back to that Denver offense. I think Bo Nix is onto something. I think Sean Payton's a Super Bowl winning coach, and I look for them to bounce back. And I think Evan Ingram, he has underperformed his talent level the last few years. So, I think that he's gonna put it together. All right, number 8 pick. A little bit of a name controversy here. When you get down to the 8th pick in the draft, really, to be honest, you don't really like anybody. You're sitting there looking at the veterans, and you're like, I don't know, this guy hadn't performed well. This guy's past his prime. This guy, I don't know, is he finally going to do something? Or you take a chance on a rookie that's got, high upside. And I like this guy. The big thing is I really don't know what his name is. In all of the draft prep, his name was, let me see here, let me read it here. His name was Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, but yet on my draft printout, his name is Bill Krosky-Merritt. So I don't know if his first name is Ja'Cory or his first name's really Bill. Hell, it could be William. I don't know. If it's Ja'Cory, I'm excited. Because when you just hear the name Ja'Cory, like that screams running back. That screams a guy that's going to make plays. Like that puts fear in the eyes of the opponent. Now, if his name's Bill Krosky-Merritt, that's not putting fear in anybody on the football field. I mean, I think that sounds like a law firm. I think the only one that's going to put fear in is if you get a letter from the firm of Bill Krosky-Merritt and you're late on your child support payment. Then that might put a little fear in you. So I'm hoping he goes by Ja'Cory. I'm trying to get confirmation of his birth certificate. If the birth certificate shows it's Bill, we may release him before the season even starts. If it's Ja'Cory, we'll definitely give him a chance to prove himself. Number 9th pick, love this pick, excited about this pick. Again, I'm going to go back to the name. Name is a theme that you're going to hear constantly throughout this press conference. I selected receiver Matthew Golden. What a great name. First of all, the first name Matthew. Let's just talk about that name. That is a strong name. Did you know that in Hebrew, Matthew means a gift from God? I mean, who raise your hand if you would love to get a gift from God. I know. And then his last name is Golden. I mean, who doesn't like shiny things? Who is not going to be excited about something that's golden? So when you combine the name Matthew Golden, you get a golden, shiny gift from God. And you know what? Matthew Golden, he's going to be a gift to this organization this season. I am excited about him. So with the 10th pick, With the 10th pick here, I was really debating on selecting a kicker. I know this is a 20-round draft. Why would I take a kicker with the 10th pick? I wanted Brandon Aubrey bad. Brandon was on my list of guys to draft this year. I wanted him. Again, you go back to our league rules, hitting 50-yard field goals, major points, major bonus point. And there's nobody in the league right now that does it better than Aubrey. Unfortunately, Charlie Casey, and I don't even know his team name because they haven't been relevant in years, but Charlie Casey selected Brandon Aubrey. Now, anyone who knows me, any coach in this league knows how I value special teams. Special teams are important to me. And so I get a little upset, and I take it personal. I know I shouldn't, when someone comes in and snatches my kicker. So let me tell you, when I heard Charlie, and this is not the first year he's done it. I think he does it just to piss me off and get under my skin. But let me tell you, we're at the Mountain State Brewing Company, fine establishment in Bridgeport, West Virginia. And let me tell you, I about grabbed his pizza pan that he had finished and was about to hit him over the head with it. That's how angry it was. But you know what, Charlie? I don't know when we play you yet. I know it's not week 1, but you better believe I'm coming after you. I'm going to circle that date on my calendar, and I'm bringing the heat. I'm bringing it. So when my kicker went, I had to make a pivot. And again, you get mid-round, it's like those guys are huge value. You're looking for value at that point. At least that's what I'm looking at. And I was staring at Rashee Rice. Now, I had Rashee Rice on the team last year. He was phenomenal. He was phenomenal for the first several games until he got hurt. So I knew I wanted him back. The only problem is he is facing a suspension currently from the NFL. I believe I will not be able to use him until week 8, which is midway through the season. But let me tell you, supposedly he was allegedly driving 100 miles an hour in his car. But listen, he can't help it. He's just fast. He's twitchy. He's a fast guy. He's fast on the football field. He's fast on the road. All right. I'm excited. You know what? We're going to keep him. We're going to keep him practicing. He's going to be engaged. He's going to be watching film, and we're going to have him ready. He's potentially a league winner, a team game changer for the Laces Out. We do need to just make sure that he takes an Uber to and from practice and on the games. He will not be driving unsupervised. Okay, so round 11, again, I'm sitting there, I'm looking, nobody I love, and I'm thinking, and I want to solidify this kicking game. I'm looking at Chris Boswell, Steelers kicker. Let me tell you, the Boz, he's my dog. Each year I name a dog on my team, and I feel like the term dog gets overused a lot. But you know what? Chris Boswell, my kicker, he's my dog. Why is he my dog? No kicker in NFL history has been more accurate from 50-plus yards. Now, if that's not impressive enough, the facts that he does it in Pittsburgh is even more incredible. I've been to that field before. The sod is not the greatest. We all know the weather's not the greatest, but he gets it done. The wind, rain, snow, it don't matter. Boz, he's the GOAT. He will go down as one of the best in NFL history. And you know what? As much as I love to see the Steelers be successful, he may be their best offensive player this season. I know they got Aaron Rodgers there. They got a great center in Zach Frazier, proud West Virginia native from Fairmont. But you know what? I'm afraid to say it. I feel like Boz is going to be their biggest weapon. I think there's going to be some games this year that he gets 5 or 6 field goals in the game. So missed out on Aubrey, but Boz is no slouch at my second option. All right, moving in at the 12th pick, I went with Keon Coleman. Again, I like the name Keon. I mean, Keon's a pretty cool name. Last year he did pretty good as a rookie. So I think, hopefully, I think he's in Indianapolis. Again, he was just a guy that I was like, threw a dart and it just landed on him. And I said, yeah, I heard of him. He sounds good. Let's snatch him up. I'm pretty sure he plays in Indianapolis. They got a new quarterback this year, Daniel Jones. Maybe he can get the ball to him. Maybe he can make some plays. No, I'm sorry. He's not in Indianapolis. That's another guy. I don't know where Keon Coleman plays. I can't remember right now. But you know what? With a name like Keon, he's good. All right. Then I went with the defensive player, my 13th pick. Again, this league's a little bit different. Instead of a team defense, we do individual defensive players. So I went, again, what I like to look for in a defensive player is, I want tackling machines. I want guys that are going to rack up the solo tackles. And I found one in Fred Warner, linebacker, San Francisco. He's rated by his peers as one of the top 20 players in the league, regardless of position. So he is well respected by his peers. I think he's going to be fantastic. I'm hoping that he ends up getting 12 to 13, 14 solo tackles a game. So excited about Fred. On to the 14th pick. You know what? I figured I'm already on the defensive side of the ball. I don't want to have to turn my sheet back to offense, so I went with another defensive player. A little bit different than usual. Again, going back to my model of trying to get high impact players that are going to make explosive plays. I went with a sack specialist, a defensive end, a guy whose name I absolutely love. Went with Maxx Crosby. Maxx Crosby from the Raiders. Again, why do I love his name? Because listen, he spells his name M-A-X-X. Not one X at the end, but two X's at the end. Now listen, the only people I know that have two X's at the end of the name Max is they're either a gladiator or a football player. And even though I only know one with that name, he's a hell of a football player. I mean, the only thing badder than the double X is the triple X. And usually the triple X name isn't given at birth. That's usually something that's added later. So I think Maxx Crosby's mom must have knew something in the womb. He must have been wrecking havoc inside of there. He must have busted across the line of scrimmage the day he was born. Hell, he might have given his mom a concussion that she couldn't even spell his name right on the birth certificate and added the second X by mistake. I don't know. I don't care, but it's made him a heck of a football player. And I'm excited about Maxx Crosby on the team this year. Again, going back to my strategy of let's not flip the page back to offense. Let's just stay on the defensive side of the ball. I went with Zack Baun. I like the name Zack Baun because Zach rhymes with sack. And he's a linebacker, and he's going to make some plays. He'll probably play on the bye week. I'm hoping that Fred and Max are my regular starters, but I'm excited to have Zack Baun on board as well. Then here we go. Number 16th pick. This is my Indianapolis receiver, Josh Downs. I think he's a sneaky value play at the 16th pick. He's not a home run guy, but he's a consistent slot guy that makes plays. Excited. Daniel Jones is going to get him the ball this year, and I think he's going to be a big. I think when you look back at the end of this draft, the guys that have maybe moved the needle for me, he might be that guy selected all the way down in the 16th round. All right, 17th pick. I got to be honest with you. I was looking here and I wasn't sure where to go. I whipped out my phone. I'm not, they didn't say it was against the rules. I might have inputted into ChatGPT. I said, who is Bashul Tutin? And the first thing that ChatGPT told me is that he runs a 4.32 40. So that had my attention. I didn't even read any further. That's all I needed to see. So I had my Al Davis moment, and I said, he's fast. I want him. So I selected running back Bashul Tutin for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm hoping that about midway through the season, those rednecks in North Florida are going to be calling him Rootin' Scootin' Tootin' or something like that. The only downside to him is he played at Virginia Tech. Had I known that he was a Hokie before I drafted him, I probably wouldn't have drafted him. The Hokies haven't been relevant since they left the Big East in 2004. But anyway, at the 17th pick, I think that Scootin' Tootin' was worth the gamble. All righty, 18th pick. I need a backup quarterback. I'm running late in the draft, looking at who's there, and I thought, you know what? I got Tua Tagovailoa there. Again, going back to the name thing this year, I mean, with a name like Tua Tagovailoa, you know he's got to have some talent. And he is good. You know, what I worry about him is his last name, Tagovailoa, is hard to say. It's even harder to spell. You know, he's had well-documented concussion history over the last several seasons, and I'm concerned that he can still even spell his last name. But the good news is there's only 3 letters in his first name, so there is a chance there. But no, when healthy, he's good. I'm hoping to only play him 1 week this season, the week that Josh Allen's on a bye. Got Tyreek Hill, so I'm hoping maybe on that week they connect a little bit and make some plays for us. With the 19th pick, I had to get a backup tight end. I've had this cat circled on my draft board. You know, not because I think he's something special, but it was a little bit of personal bias. I chose Brenton Strange. Now, that's a strange pick, you might be saying, but it's not because I like Dr. Strange, but he is from my hometown of Parkersburg, West Virginia. That's right. A skill player from West Virginia in the National Football League is something that pretty hard to come by, but he is there. When third year there, Jacksonville, Evan Ingram is gone, even though he stuck with him on my team for this fantasy football season. What I'm really hoping is I'm hoping that Ingram does okay, but Strange does even better. I would love to put him in as a starting lineup. Went on from Parkersburg. He went on to Penn State be a standout tight end and player for the Nittany Lions. You know, he goes back to Parkersburg regularly. I see his family members posting pictures often on Facebook, and he goes back and speaks to the community there and members of the football team, which is awesome to see. So, you know, that's great. You know, that he takes time out of his busy off-season schedule to do that. So, you know, Strange, I'm hoping that he comes in and, you know, going into the draft, I did not expect to have this many Jacksonville Jaguars players, but, you know, I do think they have some talent. They haven't been very good for a while, but, yeah, I think that, you know, if this is going to be the year they're going to turn the corner, this is going to be it. If you want a little sneak peek how good Brenton Strange is, I'd advise you to go to YouTube and type in highlights from Parkersburg versus Wheeling Park. Brenton Strange, they completed a phenomenal hook and ladder to beat them on the last play of the game. So, you know, if you're bored, if you're up late one night and you want to check that out, do so. You'll see the kind of playmaker that I'm drafting. All right, and with my 20th pick of the 2025 Fantasy Football Draft, I wanted to lock down a backup kicker, so I drafted again. Talk about a name. I drafted a young man, a rookie, again, from the Jaguars, Cam Little. Now, do not let the last name Little fool you. He is got a big leg. He is Little is his last name, but he has got a cannon for a leg. I followed this kid since he was in high school. From high school, he went on to Arkansas, had a phenomenal career in Arkansas. He made waves this preseason by hitting a 70-yard field goal in a game. So anytime I can get a chance to grab a kid that has that type of upside, I'm taking him. So he's my sleeper kicker pick. You know, I think that going into next year's draft, if he has the type of season that he has, he could be the Brandon Aubrey of next year's draft, where I'll be having to try to beat Charlie Casey's ass to try to keep him from drafting Cameron Little. But you heard it here first. He's fantastic. So, you know, again, recapping my team, I'm excited. I'm happy. I think we've got some potential. Like anything, we got to stay healthy. Yeah, that's part of the battle with fantasy football. So finally, I will, leave it up for one last question before we wrap up this press conference. Yeah, Gary, you can put the leaf blower right back in the corner there. Yeah. just leave it again. Just leave it and get out of here. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Thank you. I felt like we started this press conference off kind of negatively. But thank you for asking that question and ending on a positive way. So yeah, currently, I try not to, get into, my personal accolades as a coach. I feel like you're only as good as your last game. But currently I'm sitting at 95 wins as a head coach in fantasy football. So yeah, five wins shy from the 100 mark. So hey, you know what? Hopefully, with the team I got, hopefully we're hitting that in week 5. We're celebrating. We're taking a pause and celebrating my 100th victory. That's something that I realize you're only as good as your last game. So while that's awesome, while that's set, I want to get that football. I want to capture that number 100. We still have a job to do, a task at hand. We got to get some more sponsorships for next season. I've already been moved out to the garage. I don't want to be doing this out by the side of the road next season. So, So again, I'm excited. Hopefully I'm still excited after week 1. But to the other coaches in the league, I'm not going to wish you good luck because I hope all of you fail miserably. I really do that. I mean that with all sincerity. But it's going to be a pleasure to see you guys on the field. And thanks for tuning in to this press conference.